Welcome to the Zesty Ginger Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Zesty Podcast. This is Megan Blacksmith here, co-founder of Zesty, and I am here with my special guest, Michelle Hellbusch. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Megan.
So happy to have you here for this conversation. So why are Michelle and I talking, and what are we talking about? Michelle is our head coach. She's head coach at Zesty. And we wanted to have kind of inside the Zesty container conversation, open the kimono a little bit and just share what we do, how we do it, because we have a very unique process. We have a very unique training, a very unique way of working and helping coaches. And our coaches that train with us are also very unique. Over time, we have seen a really, really big shift in people who come in really wanting to work on health, and then they get their health back and now they're fired up and they really want to go for a passion project or start a business or write that book or do the podcast. And we get to see this amazing transition over and over and over. And one of the things that we see as a pattern for people who are successful and people who move along quickly is that they get mentors and coaches. And this includes coaches and mentors themselves, right? Mentoring someone else or being a coach. I always have a coach and I always will have a coach. And sometimes it's in a very specific area, right? Like I need to learn about Facebook ads. So I'm hiring someone in that. And then sometimes it's having a coach on call, like I have the lovely Michelle, for working for general life transformation, the things that come, because as we expand and as we are helping more and more women, and we're starting to see so much interest in our training, our certification training, that, as of October, we're going to be in a much bigger space. And with each of these shifts in our business, there's a little pushback. There's an up level that has to happen for me and Dr. Alex for us to expand at the same level of the business, right? To have the beliefs and the identity of the person who's willing to do that. So I am of the believer that, you can't see the label from inside the bottle. We need someone outside of us to really help bring that out. So that is why I will call on Michelle when I am stuck in something and I will say, can you help me clear this? I need to move an emotion. I have an inkling of what's happening here, but I need an outside person and outside support. And we also want that support for our people who are going through our certification trainings and the people who work with us, which is why we do have coaches that we hire within our coach training. All that to say, Michelle is the head of our coaches. So Michelle, let's go back to when we met. Let's go back to that first phone call. Michelle was actually looking for a mutual friend connected us. And Michelle was looking for information about the FDN program, the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Program, which I also did. So a friend connected us saying, hey, talk to Megan about it. She can tell you if she liked it and how it was going. And as we started to talk, I was like, I'm not sure if FDN is actually what you're looking for based on what you're telling me. And I love that program. It just depends on where somebody is, if they're still really focused on the physical body. In Michelle's case, she had all the physical body knowledge. She was really moving into more of the energetic and the subconscious and the beliefs. So Michelle, will you just take us all back and tell us tell me a little bit about where you were in life and what were you were looking for when that friend connected us.
Yeah. So I'll take you a little farther back just to explain kind of what I went through. I had struggled with chronic illness for like 12 plus years, seeing every Western medical doctor, trying to get answers. And I was too young, too healthy, too whatever to have anything wrong with me. And it got to a point where after my second child, I remember pretty vividly, he was about 6 months old. And I woke up one morning and thinking, this is not normal. I just did not feel well. So at that point, I had been down many rabbit holes researching, and I was pretty sure I knew what was wrong with me at that point. I found a wonderful naturopathic doctor, and I requested a couple tests, and she was a little uncertain, like, are you sure you want to start there? And I was like, yes, let's do it. And sure enough, they came back positive. And now knowing what I know about the mind, I'm sure my mind had a play in that too. But so that set me on a detox journey. I did the saunas, the supplements, the dry brushing, rebounding, everything. And so at the point where I called or spoke to you, I was really looking for a way that I could help myself and help others. And I had done a health coaching program before, actually, and never really got much value out of it. It was very surface level. And so I really liked the idea of FDN. So when I called you, I wanted to learn more about that and change my path very quickly after that.
Yeah. So as we were talking, what shifted in that you started to realize like that the actual functional medicine that you really had already a ton of knowledge around that. So what shifted that you decided, okay, what happened was I suggested, hey, what about the subconscious reprogramming and NLP and hypnosis, the things that I had just been trained in, and we weren't yet doing our own training. So I wasn't actually pushing her to our own program or anything. I just heard it in her language. I could tell that she was where I was. Once you've worked with a certain number of people, we'd have been at it for 7, maybe 8 years, and you start to see the patterns and you start to see there's this thing missing. And these people are willing to do all the things exactly as you say. And that's when, for me, the shifting beliefs and subconscious reprogramming was such a drastic shift. And I could tell Michelle was already there. So what was your experience of that, Michelle?
So I had done everything. I remember actually saying those exact words to you. I've tried everything and my labs actually look great, but I still don't feel well. So I know there's something missing. I just don't really know what it is. And so after talking to you and you saying, oh, have you tried everything? What about hypnosis? Have you ever done timeline therapy? I'm like, no, what's that? Tell me more.
That's super cool. So take us on a journey a little bit of how has life shifted once you got into that training and became a coach?
Life has shifted in every single possible way. It wasn't just my health. It was my marriage, my relationship with my kids, my friends, my family. It all completely shifted. And it really did start with my health. That was the area that I needed to shift first. And I was on a pretty strict protocol before I went to my level 1 training. And when I got back, I never did it again. It just was completely shifted in my mind.
What were you experiencing physically? I know that's way in the past.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it as much, but what were you experiencing physically coming into it? And like how detailed was your protocol?
So I was experiencing extreme fatigue, pain, massive headaches that would last for more than a week, and like chronic neck, back pain. And my protocol, so it was like doing the saunas one day, the binders the next day, things like that, where it was very regimented. And so once I got back, I didn't even feel I needed it anymore. It was a complete shift.
Can you pinpoint anything specific that, like, was there a belief that changed over the week, or was it accumulation? Like, was there anything about the power of your body that you feel led to you being able to say, I don't actually need that, or I can just listen to my body?
Yeah, so I think the most powerful thing that I did when I was there was parts integration. So integrating different parts of me. And I realized when I was there that I did not fully believe that my body could heal. And once I integrated those parts and switched that belief, it was crazy. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just was like, wow, I can heal. My body has everything it needs to heal. And once I shift and actually believed it, like truly believed it, that's when I saw the change.
Okay, beautiful. And I don't think we've ever talked about parts specifically on the podcast. Okay. So I'll just share a little bit for anybody who's interested. If you actually listen in people's language, they will say things like, well, part of me thinks I really should start the business. And part of me is like, oh gosh, then I'll be a horrible mom. All right. So we'll actually have competing parts. And there's a ton of amazing resources about this. And obviously, this is something we teach in our training of how to integrate, first, how to identify, and then how to integrate them, because this is not just, it's in our language, and it's in our language because it's actually in our neurology. So in our nervous system, we will have separate parts, and they are very distinct. Some of the books that I've read around parts specifically, if it gets very extreme, it can be to the point that someone can have different blood work in a different part. They can have an allergy in one part and not in another. I don't know if anyone here listening has ever worked with someone where you're kind of like, well, I don't know who's showing up today. It's either that Bobby or the other kind of Bobby, right? Like they're actually seem like two people. These can be really, really strong parts where usually at an early age, something happens that the person realize it is not safe to be the way I am. So maybe they decide that it isn't safe to be all this like lovable and kind, and because they were picked on because of that, or when they were all being lovable or kind, somebody took advantage of them, or a parent got mad, or whatever they perceived, because this is coming through their, this can be coming through a 5-year-old's eyes, whatever they perceived, it was not safe. They will now start to separate out into that other part. So the big T traumas can lead to much more defined and intense parts. So the stronger the trauma, the more defined of a system sometimes that someone has created because it was a safety mechanism. And it's always a safety mechanism. So then they'll go into that part, and it could be a people pleaser part. It could be a protection part. Any of these parts that they have figured out worked well for them at some point, and we'll pull on them and we'll use them. And that's fine, except when that part is exactly at odds to where you want to go. So in Michelle's case of healing, right? And I had the same, like part of me felt it was safe to heal. And part of me felt that actually having these problems is the only way I can receive love, because unless I have something going on, then it won't be safe to accept and receive from people. So they're really a really, really big deal. So I'm glad you pointed that one out, Michelle.
Yeah. And that secondary gain that you're talking about is very common I've found people who are struggling with their health.
Right. So secondary gain, meaning they get something out of, we won't do it unless we get something that benefits us. And often we'll say, well, consciously, I know I don't want that thing, and we keep doing it. And when that happens, you just have to keep looking at the actual pattern in life. What is happening? Because if we say we want it and we really don't have it, then there's something there. There's something there stopping us. So I know your physical health shifted a ton. What else was impacted for you when you got home? Did it shift your relationship or anything with your kids?
Yeah, both actually. It definitely shifted my relationship with my husband and my kids immensely. Yeah, one of the biggest things with my kids is I realized that when I had the ability to deal with my own emotions, I was able to be more present for theirs, which sounds so simple. And yet it's actually, a bit of a challenge sometimes. I can get caught up in their emotions and feel at fault for what's happening. And I realized that I have the tools to help them process their emotions, that emotions are just inevitable in life. And it really put me in an empowered place to be able to help them and help guide them. And it wasn't about me, right? That I could be okay during those emotions.
And was it easy for you to leave your kids?
No, it was not easy. So yeah, the training 7 days. So I was gone, 8, 9 days almost. And my kids at the time were 2.5-ish and 5. And it was a very hard decision for me to leave. But it kind of came down to, I need to do this for myself. I needed a change. I needed my health back. And I am so glad I did, because my life has completely transformed since then.
I know that leaving children, and I had this too, because the training in order to become a trainer of the training we now do was 18 days. So that was quite the stretch for sure. Michelle, do you have any advice for people who are like, I really want to go to something? Maybe you want to come to our 7-day training, or well, the one thing is once you've gone to 18-day thing, my kids are like, oh, you're just leaving for 6 days? That's nothing. But what do you do when you're in the beginning of this process? Any advice for people to start to work through their beliefs and stuff around leaving children?
Yeah, I think as a parent, you want to always be present for your kids and do the best you can for them. And the idea of leaving is challenging, right? Because you want to be there for everything. And what I would say is that, especially going to these trainings, the 7-day, which, yeah, maybe you've never left that long, but when you go to that training, you're not only helping yourself, you are helping your children too. Because when you are able to be there for yourself and process your own emotions and be consciously aware of things that are happening for you, you are able to do the same for your children. And that is going to benefit them for their entire life. So I don't necessarily see it as, oh, I'm just leaving for 7 days, they're going to hate me, because that's not what's happening. You know, you'll come back as a different person, and you will be able to be truly present when you are there with them. And yeah, so it's kind of same as you. I leave a lot more now, and my kids, you know, it's hard, but they know I'm coming back, and they know that it makes me happy, and so it makes them happy. And it's such a different shift.
And I like to just be real with everybody, because I think there's this idea that Michelle and I were talking about before recording, that once you get somewhere, you're done. And, you know, Michelle and another team member, Kristen, and I were just, you know, we were in Phoenix for an amazing, indispensable leadership training with James Wedmore. And there was some stuff that came up around kids, right? Like it becomes a mirror every time you expand or grow. You're like, oh, I'm pushing on a boundary, right? So I have the thing of like, okay, now I can leave. In my head, there's this artificial rules of like, well, I can leave, you know, once every 6 weeks for a week. Like that's okay. I'm doing air quotes, right? And then now we've signed up for, you know, we have our own trainings and we're attending, you know, I'm going to 4 James Wedmore trainings this year. So now this next week, I'm going to a training, turning around, coming for 3 days, and then going back to our 7 days. So there, for me, I was hitting a limit there. And I think you were too, right, Michelle?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and that's what's super cool. You know, of course, it's hard to have these difficult moments, but I love that when we were there, I can be like, hey, Megan, like, help me through this real quick. You know, my kids are dealing with this while I'm gone. And like, I know it's something I need to shift. And I just am seeing clouds right now, you know, like help me kind of take me up above this so I can see it more clearly.
Will you share just a little bit more specifically of like how this showed up? Because I think most people would be like, okay, I go on a trip, something happens at home with my kids. That has nothing to do with me, which of course in our world, believing in perception is projection. We're always looking at like, okay, yes, they're having their own unique individual experience as a kid. And what is this pattern? Will you just share a little bit of like what was happening?
Yeah. I already kind of forget a little bit of it, but I have noticed that this time and the past couple of times I've left, certain things are happening where my kids don't want to go to school and they want to stay home, and oh, I don't feel good, my stomach hurts, things like that, where I'm like, no, like something else is at play here.
Yeah. So just patterns of like all of a sudden, not feeling well or pretending to not feel well. It's hard to know with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I saw, my older daughter had school off on Tuesday and my younger one didn't, because now one's at public school and one's still at her Montessori school. And magically, my younger daughter had developed this stomach thing, but she actually had stuff going on. Like it's like we were both laughing. We're like, yep, she's not going to school. Lily's not going. She's not going. They're very smart.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And how the brain plays into that to actually make her stomach hurt. Right.
Right. I mean, she was not lying. There was actual evidence. And I truly believe that she called that in. She was like, big sister and I do the same things.
Yeah. That Pagey's powerful.
So one of the things that we do as a process in our trainings is actually have people who've attended trainings can come back and being a coaching assistant. Mm-hmm. So this is such a cool process for me, actually going back to assist for my trainers. So, you've been to the week-long training, but now you go back and you're not getting paid to do this. You're showing up. I flew to Austin. You're essentially giving your time for 7 days. And although you're there to serve the people going through and you're there for support and you're getting to hear all the content again, you're not doing every exercise, but you're in the room, you're hearing it again. And I actually end up having even bigger breakthroughs as the assistant, which was fascinating. It's an exchange. We believe in, there's always an exchange of energy. So when we have students who come do that for us, we decide on our goals in the beginning, they decide on what they want. And there's this thing of like, they showed up to help us and we're there to help them, like actually, physically. And there's this just energetic thing that happens where all of a sudden people are like, oh, I just magically got a client while I was here, or like, oh, just got some great news. We had someone like their partner got a job, a raise, while they were there. Just really cool things will happen. So can you tell me a little about your experience as a coaching assistant?
Yeah. So my first time coaching assistant was very powerful. I really didn't know what to expect. It was at the beginning of my journey in coaching, and I did feel imposter syndrome going in, because that first group, they were all well-established coaches and FDNs. And I realized that I knew the material that they were there to learn. And so it was really powerful for me to be in that position to help guide them and learn. So that was super cool. And then there was, I think, a couple massive breakthroughs that I had that I just wasn't expecting. And it's so neat, just kind of like we were saying, the work is never over, just that onion where I was at the next level of what needed to show up. And I was in this container where I felt safe. And really thanks to you and Dr. Alex being there to catch me, so to speak, and coach me and support me through that was really incredible. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so now you are the head coach at Zesty. Yeah. How does that feel?
So cool. It's the most fun job I have ever had, ever.
Well, we love you having you with us. It's amazing. Alex and I noticed that we had a choice going into the live trainings, right? We've always done these online groups for a long time. We've helped people with hormone health. And as we've shifted to actually help the practitioner or to help the coach or to help the leader, we had a choice going into this of how we're going to show up, because when you're 7 days in person with people, that's not like an hour-long Zoom call where you can just zip it up and like, everything's amazing. This is real life. There are real things happening in the background, and it is like clockwork. There's always something that's happening at the same time of a training that we personally maybe need to work through. And we made a decision going into this that we were going to be very open and vulnerable with everyone, and specifically with our coaches, because we were all staying in one house for the first training. And I remember, I think it was the end of day 2, maybe day 3, my body went into a little bit of it was a trauma response. It was the shaking type response that I actually use all the time on purpose. My body was just doing that automatically. And it was a little bit of a carryover from the trainer's training that I had done, which I did share. If y'all haven't listened to my personal series, which I can't even remember which season it was now, maybe 15. Anyway, I share my whole journey through that training. And I even share the story that came up about a car accident where I was just went into full shake response during that training. And here we were on the same day of our training as when my body went into that response at that training. And I was back in it. And I had a choice. I could go into my room and close the door and just deal with this on my own, or I could just stay in the living room where I was. And that's what I chose to do. And I did, the moment I made that choice, I didn't quite know I was going to go through the intensity that I did, because that's probably the most intense kind of emotional, energetic breakthrough I've had just out of nowhere, like not specifically going in to work on anything or with anyone. And Alex sat there next to me, I think for like 45 minutes. She was doing energy work. She was helping me clear. And I was like shaking. My teeth were chattering. I was uncontrollably crying. I was shaking. And all of our lovely coaches were just kind of hanging around and holding space. And I remember kind of coming out of it at the end and Alex and I being outside. And there was just a second in the beginning where I was like, was that a really horrible idea to show all these people who are here? We are the leaders of this. And they're like, uh-oh, Megan lost it. The ship's going down. And I don't know what the response I actually got was. The opposite. Michelle, I'd love you to just share. I think I remember you saying something specific about that, but just to share how that experience was for you, because I know as leaders, or if you have clients, we think we always have to just keep it together. And some of the biggest breakthroughs that people I've worked with are like when I share something that they just realize, oh, we're all the same. Like you may be ahead in a certain area, you may have more training in a certain area, and we're all humans really dealing with our stuff every day.
Yeah, so it was actually really cool for me to see, just as you said, it just reinforced the idea that, oh, you're real too, right? Like you have your stuff that you're dealing with just as I do, and everybody does, So, and kind of just to go back to where the work is never truly over. Like, I don't think that that's a thing. I think, with a great deal of effort, we're all constantly evolving and up-leveling and becoming better versions of ourselves. And the work that we do gives you the tools to help you process that and move through it rather than sweeping it under the rug or whatever. And it helps. This kind of makes me think of the idea of stopping 2 inches from gold. After that experience, you could have said, wow, I guess I can't really handle that type of training. Maybe I should stop. And imagine if you did, you wouldn't be here with this incredibly successful training company and doing what you do now. So it really makes you realize too, that sometimes you have to go through that hard time, right, to get to that other side.
Beautiful. I'm so glad that was your takeaway, because it's always a choice in the moment and you don't quite know how people are going to react. And I've found over and over that the more open and vulnerable we can be, and that doesn't mean, we talk about cause versus effect. That doesn't mean being in being in effect of like, okay, everything always goes wrong to me, or somebody did this to me. It does also mean just stating openly. Courageous communication is one of the pillars and values of our company. Is just openly like, hey, this is where I actually am. This is what's really happening. And I know where I want to go, and I'm not quite there yet, but to be able to openly say it. So it's a practice of essentially working through, for me, it's working through the needing to look good. Because that was a strong belief I took on as a kid of like, doesn't matter how you're doing, you need to look good. And a lot of people we work with also have that one going on. So when you can let go looking good in a container like this, then you go home and you're like, how many things am I doing that I'm just doing to look good? They're not things I want to be doing. They're not things I need to be doing. They're actually not even helping anyone sometimes. Or they're creating so much resentment. So needing to look good is something that in a 7-day training, which is so cool about the way the in-person 7 days is set up, is that you can look good. If you want, you can probably look good for day 1, probably look good for day 2. Day 3, good luck. Would you say that's about how long it could last?
That feels about right.
Yeah. Right. It's like, there's only so long that we can button things up when we're doing the real work. It's just a matter of time. We'll always have people say like, oh no, like my worst fear is that I won't sleep well coming into a training day. And we're like, you know what? The cool thing is whether you sleep or whether you don't, you're going to be right where you need to be, because I've gone into some of those days so exhausted. And that's when I actually broke open, right? When you're tired, you can't hold that together as well. Like you actually go to your emotion, you actually do the thing. So there is something to this of day after day where the life is going to life and the container is going to do its thing and other people are going to share. And it just slowly cracks into these little beliefs that a lot of people just don't even know are there. It's just how they've always been. Mm-hmm. And they don't even know how that is playing out in lots of areas of their life. So yeah, we get to slowly break open the needing to look good at the expense of everything else. So
yeah, well, and that's what I think is really cool about you and Dr. Alex is your willingness to be transparent and be open. I really found that the more open and honest I am, even with my clients, and vulnerable, that they're more willing to give that back to me. So it really makes, especially in the 7-day container, it makes it so much more powerful for the transformation of those that are coming in. And just like you're saying, it's powerful on a 1-hour Zoom call, and it's even more powerful in that 7 days.
Absolutely. So what would you say, Michelle, for the biggest takeaway for someone who's doubting that they could add like this new training or that they could do the deep subconscious work? Because we'll have people who are really interested and then they'll come back and be like, oh, I just don't know if I could do it. Right. So there's a little resistance coming up. So what would you tell someone who's like interested in adding these tools, but a little bit resistant?
Well, it literally transformed every aspect of my life. And so it's not even just about bringing it into your practice. I really think that these tools help everybody individually as well. And I wasn't a doctor or a practitioner going into this. I really did go for myself to begin, and knew that I wanted to help people. And I really would say that, especially if there's practitioners out there who have clients that are stuck, in that position, kind of where I was doing all the things. I was diligently dosing and keeping track of everything. And my labs did look better, but I still didn't feel well. So if there is any practitioners out there who have clients like that, these are the tools that will help them. I'm completely certain of that.
Yeah, I think the confidence it brings to practitioners, that the people that you may have felt like, oh gosh, I always get stuck when I get to this level with someone, like, I don't know what to do when they do all the things, or I don't know what to do when they just tell me, no, I'm not changing that habit. Right. Or like they're just resistant to their own, what they say they want. These are really the tools that break through that. These are really the tools that allow you to sit there and allow someone to be uncomfortable because that's what they need, or allow you to push with a little more curiosity when someone says like, oh, I can't afford your program. And you know that this is the best thing that they could do for how far it's going to take them. It's what they need. You have what they need. And to be able to sit and just push a little bit more with curiosity of like, oh, what makes this not be of value? What makes this not be a priority to you? Because you're already on the other side of this and what these tools can do. So just being able to sit in that, we've seen people who already have practices be just take off, like if there's, and then brand new coaches to just have, will have witnessed by the end of the week. Cause you do each process you do with a partner. So you will give and you will receive, and you will have your own partner, right? It's like when you just worked with someone, their fear of heights. And now 1 week later, they're like, yep, I'm going to go climb that ladder. And they do. And they call you and tell you they do. This really happened. Or another one, fear of snakes. And she's like, yep, I just rode over one on my bike and I did not go into fight or flight. Terex also shared that story on our podcast before, but you see so many specific things that now your brain is like, this is real and this is true. And I can help so many people. And that confidence that you bring, it just, people feel that and they're like, let's do that. So it's just a pretty easy, smooth transition into that.
Yeah. And I was talking kind of about practitioners who have clients that are stuck, but I also do want to mention too, how I wasn't a practitioner, and now I am a coach and helping so many women. And I really think that the tools you learn in the training really do help you create a practice. So if there is anybody who wants to start coaching, there is a solid framework to help them get started. And yeah, the stories, just like you're saying, like they're surprising sometimes, but not like we expect it. And it's just still so cool to see, and like OCD gone in a week, and it's really amazing.
Yeah. Just like you said, it's like Michelle and I fully believe in this work, and every training we're like, can you believe that? Wow. It's so cool. The timing that's amazing. It's not that we didn't think it could go. It's the timing that really is amazing. So, well, depending on when this airs, it's a great question, although I'll just announce. So either it's past it or there's still a spot. So our next training is the very, very end of April. And let me make sure I say the right date. It starts April 28th. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. No, the 29th.
Nope, 29th is a Saturday. It starts April 29th, 1 week from then, Saturday to Friday. As of right now, I believe there's one, maybe two spots, depending on whether one of our attendees had to push back to a later date. And then October 14th, is that right, Michelle? Double checking. So, yes, yeah, October 14th to 20th will be the only other option for our level 1 training this year. We will have a 2-day habit training that's going to be happening in August in Dallas. So that's for those of you who aren't fully ready to go all in and you do want to come experience the Zesty and experience the subconscious work, we will be doing that August 23rd and 24th. It's a Wednesday and a Thursday. We have a really cool spot in an amazing hotel. There's a stage, there's tables. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be food included. So lots and lots of fun things happening in the meantime. So if you have any interest in this and you want to jump on the phone with me or Michelle, if you want to hear Michelle's personal story or how she experienced it on the other end, she's happy to talk to people, and so am I. So you can just go ahead and email us support@zestyginger.com, and we are happy to talk to you. We love it. It's our favorite thing to do. And we have an amazing group of 10 ladies who are committed for this next April training. And they are already all in our online training, and the excitement and the conversations. I am anticipating some huge stories after that week, because what's happening in the momentum is, and maybe it's just the way we're talking about it, or maybe it's just the world, that people are coming in ready. They are coming in like, I am here. I am all in. They're not pretending anymore. They're not holding back on like, oh, I'm a perfect practitioner. They're like, here's my stuff. I'm opening it up. Let's do this. And we've seen that increase every single time that we lead a new group. And whether it's just how they are, or we're getting better at making everyone feel safe and comfortable, I don't know. But we are very excited for what's to come. We have big plans of helping hundreds and hundreds to thousands of practitioners add these tools to their practice so that they can help people faster so that they can help people with less, with them being required to do less, take less, like less supplements, less food changes, less restrictions. That's what we've seen happen, especially in the health world, or if it's in any other coaching, just to be able to transform faster in a way that's not quite as painful, because we've kind of done the painful journey and we are realizing these tools, once you have them forever. So it becomes a never ending process. We're not saying it's easy. I think sometimes people realize it's faster. It doesn't mean it's easy. It just means that you now have your go-to and you're like, okay, I'm in a new level, time to work through that. So we are on a mission to add these tools to practitioners' lives, to coaches' lives, nutritionists, doctors, chiropractors, naturopaths, dietitians, all the people, NTPs, FDNs, coaches, whatever you are. We are hoping to add this because we believe with a whole group of coaches adding this kind of thing and really considering all four bodies, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical, that we will be able to change conventional medicine. That's the big goal, as we are, because even just functional medicine alone at this point, what we're seeing is not enough. We love it and it needs more. So we want to shift the paradigm away from conventional medicine, and we believe that this is the way to do it. So if you want to hear more about that, come find us. Thanks for listening today. Thanks for being here, Michelle.
Thanks, Megan.
Hi, I'm Carly, and I attended the Habit Transformation event in Virginia Beach in January of 2023, and it was such a transformation experience. Before the event, I had just freshly earned my certifications that allowed me to become a life coach and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And I had also just decided to end my 12-year career in teaching to step into the identity of being a coach. And I got my certifications, and everything I was focused on and working towards, which was literally the paper in hand, was handed over to me. And then everything just sort of stopped and I froze and I didn't know what to do next. And it was just such a divine intervention that I got to attend the January event, because the transformation that can happen in a room full of participants who are all there for the up level, for the transformation, and have that growth mindset is so empowering. And Megan and Alex have you do a goal setting event, and everybody is just so in their magic and in their power that I decided to write down some stretch goals and trust the process, that even though I didn't actually believe at my core that these goals were going to be reached, my intuition told me to write them down anyway. And I signed my first client, I think at the most 3 weeks after the event. I signed another client about a week after that. My first client finished her package and then up-leveled to another package. And I came across all the goals that I had written down at the January event. I had forgotten to even look back at them. And I came across them randomly the other day, and every single one of the goals that I wrote down came true. So that is the power of the transformation, of the safe space, of the container that Megan and Alex create. And these events are literally life-changing. And not only that, but I also am still in communication with almost every single one of the participants that I interacted with at the event. We just connected so fast, so quickly. There's just this vulnerability and this like-mindedness and this instant connection that happens at these live events. And I don't know anywhere else where you can find this level of connection other than at the Zesty events, because I haven't found it anywhere else. So it's just magical, and you have to experience it, because there's no way of describing it other than to experience it for yourself. Bye.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.